Hi, everyone. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Transform Your Confidence Show, a place where you guys know every single week we don't just provide the what, but we are also backing it up with the how. This week, I'm hosting another episode of the Real Life Success Stories series, something you guys know I launched a couple of months ago. And I did it really to accommodate those guests who I personally feel have a professional journey that in and by itself is a massive teachable and mentorship moment. If there's one thing I've learned over my 30-year entrepreneurial journey, guys, it's that every experience in life is an opportunity to either learn, grow, inspire, give back, or any combination of the above, if not them all, right? So today's episode is aptly entitled, How to Take a Business Idea from Inception to Scale in Any Climate, a Real Life Success Story. Meet four-time serial tech founder and entrepreneur, Prerna Gupta, who is best known for her apps, Hooked and Small, having scaled them collectively to reach over 1 billion people worldwide, no less. Her investor portfolio reads off like a who's who of celebrity tech investors. People like Ashton Kutcher, Mariah Carey, and Jamie Foxx, just to name a few. Prerna has also been named as one of the most influential women in tech by Fast Company, and her writing has been featured in New York Times, Vogue, and TechCrunch, among many, many others. Her most recent startup is called Mysterious and is a video NFT platform powering social media on the blockchain. Please welcome, guys, to the show, the fabulous Prerna Gupta. Sweetheart, finally, I get you on. Welcome.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to get the lowdown on your new enterprise. I've been following you since the beginning. But before we go there, let's take everyone watching, listening, and reading this on a bit of a journey through your career trajectory so we can kind of set some context around how you've gone from inception to scale a whopping 3 times, no less, and you're on to your 4th. And I know that the journey is not going to be any different. Let's start here, Prerna. I want to journey through kind of the start for where I would see the start would be, but please correct me if I'm wrong. And that is your journey in Stanford, where you did a degree in economics. First of all, before we kind of get into that, I can't imagine how many BIPOC women were at Stanford at the same time that you were. Can you shed light on that? I want to start there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Stanford was, I think, a relatively diverse place. Even at the time that I was there, I entered in 2000, right after the dot-com bust, and I was, pleasantly surprised. I mean, I found a good community of South Asian women there, and just people from different walks of life. I think Stanford made efforts to try and create a diverse environment there. But at the same time, I definitely felt like a fish out of water. And I think for me, what made me feel different and out of place was, in a lot of ways, my background, not only as an Indian immigrant, but also someone coming from a small town in Oklahoma, which is where I grew up. Right. And in a lot of ways, I think my entrepreneurship journey started there. It started in high school, me growing up small, as Indian immigrant in Oklahoma. I was so different. And really, I had to learn how to stand up for myself and for my beliefs, and to have courage and conviction in ideas that were different. And that was really where it began. And when I came to Stanford, I thought I was going to find my place. And in a lot of ways, I was a fish out of water all over again. And that was because so many of the kids that went to Stanford went to really amazing schools and had this educational background that I didn't have. And so I found myself again kind of thrown in and in an environment where I had to fight for myself, and I had to work extra hard to kind of get to a place where I could thrive. And it was an incredible journey. And in the end, I ended up graduating Phi Beta Kappa, and I found a way to get there, but it was tough. It was definitely an experience.
Is there any advice that you'd have for any aspiring women? I'm not just going to say women from our community, but women in general, to be able to deal with the kind of challenges you dealt with. First of all, being a fish out of water in kind of your years in high school, etc., and then moving into this environment. What are some of the things that you learned there that perhaps will be beneficial for them to know?
Yeah, the biggest thing is to believe in yourself first and foremost.
Yes.
Always. And it's because you are going to, when you're different, you are going to feel that, you walk into a room, you walk into a classroom, you walk into a frat party, whatever it is, you're not going to look like the other people there. You're not going to, sometimes, when I got to Stanford, I remember my roommate who was from Malibu, and I love her. We're still best friends, but she told me that I had a hick accent. And I didn't know that. I think it's gone by now, I believe. But
I don't hear it.
Mortified. It's like little things like that where you get those, you'll get those signals, those social signals, and you just have to dig deep. You got to believe in yourself, believe that you belong, and that you have something special to offer, and that your differences are your strength.
Yes. To all of the above. I completely agree with you. Having been on a similar journey of being a fish out of water, but in a different context, I totally get what you're talking about. It fundamentally comes down to this inherent internal belief that you deserve this. You really, that you deserve this. So let's talk a little bit about, the fact that you were at Stanford. You got to kind of, really decipher that game, so to speak, since life is full of them, right? I'm interested to know how the economics degree factored into you getting into the startup world, tech startup. Was there a link, or did it come from somewhere else?
Yeah, there was definitely a link. So when I got to Stanford, I had no idea what I wanted to study or what I wanted to do. Both my parents are doctors, so that was kind of an obvious, like, okay, I'm going to take some chemistry and bio classes. And I knew I didn't want to be a doctor, but I thought maybe I'll do biomedical engineering, very, very Indian. And I took some of those classes, and I liked them, but I didn't love them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just started to explore, and I took an economics class. And it just kind of blew my mind. And what really fascinated me about economics was it explained so much about human behavior and how humans respond to incentives. And that was kind of the beginning of my intellectual journey as an entrepreneur, even though I didn't know it at the time. So after taking a few econ classes, I decided to major in economics, because at the time I was interested in economic development and economic empowerment. And so I majored in econ, took those classes, continued to grow intellectually in that way. And then it came time to figure out, what am I going to do with my career? I explored different options, and I ended up getting a job initially as a management consultant at a company known as Monitor Group. And I did that because I just became interested in solving business problems that, again, felt intellectually interesting to me. But after a few months at Monitor, I realized I didn't want to work in a corporation. I didn't want to help other corporations, large corporations, and be a cog in the wheel. I really wanted to do my own thing, and I wanted to start my own business. So to get closer to entrepreneurship, I jumped after 6 months into a VC job and became a venture capitalist. And I was there for 6 weeks. I hated the culture. I hated just everything about it. And instead, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I wasting my time? I want to be a founder. I had an idea at that time. I was like, just stop waiting, just go do it, And so I quit my second job in less than a year after graduating, and I started my first company.
Oh my gosh.
I've never looked back.
The rest is history, as they say, right, Prerna? I have to ask you this, because I'm hearing a pattern as, your story's unfolding, how whenever there's been a challenge per se, you've been very mindful as to, okay, we need to overcome this. Now, how do we go about overcoming this? And I feel that that kind of also parlayed beautifully over into your decision, that fundamental decision between working for someone and working for yourself. Can you shed light a little bit on why, fundamentally you decided to take on the entrepreneurial route versus working for someone? Because we know there's pros and cons with both, but being an entrepreneur and being a founder and being a tech founder, that's some insane challenges. So talk to me a little bit about that. And I think that my question is more aligned with the mindset piece around this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it was really about feeling like I was maximizing my potential and making the most of my time. And for me, when I'm working for other people, I don't feel that. I feel that I'm operating at like 80% or even less than that. And it's hard for me to explain why that is, but it's just when a structure is being handed down to me and priorities are being handed down to me, I'm not able to make the most of my effort and my time.
Is that how you feel?
That's how I feel, and it's not. And so I think it was driven primarily by that. And then kind of on a day-to-day basis, feeling that frustration of like, I could be doing more and I'm being held back as an individual. And then in addition to that, I'm a creator. I've always wanted to create things. When I was young, what you remember, like, okay, what do you want to be? Like those memories of, and you go through different phases, but the two things that really stuck over the years is one, actually there were three. One, I wanted to be an inventor. Two, I wanted to be a writer. And three, I wanted to be a singer. And so for me, my way of doing all of those things eventually was to become an entrepreneur and to create products that help other people do these things.
It's interesting because all the 3 points that you just said is a beautiful parlay into the discussion about mysterious. But before we get there, I want to ask you this. What kind of characteristics have you found a person needs to have on lock to be a successful entrepreneur? Because, seeing that you've done it so many times, and even though it's been in the tech space, it's been in, different silos. So I'd love for you to kind of shed light on that a little bit for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll tell you three of my top three.
Okay.
Number one is curiosity. It's really important to be the sort of person that's just wants to, that asks questions and wants to know the why behind things and wants to learn new things and thrives in that kind of feeling of, I don't know the answer to this and I want to go find it. So curiosity. Number two, basically an incredible ability to adapt. And I think adaptability is actually one of our superpowers as humans.
Yes.
It's one of the reasons that we are the most successful species on the planet. It's because when our environment changes, we find a way to adapt and to thrive in that new environment. And as a founder, you are constantly having to adapt. The way the world is when you start your company is not how it is as you progress, as your journey progresses. And the founders that are the most successful are the ones that are great at adapting. And number three, perseverance.
Yes.
You are going to experience failure much more often than you experience success as a founder. And, in the press and in the public, I always see it as the success stories, but the reality is every successful founder is failing 90% of the time. And it's about just having that perseverance and not feeling like failure is the final answer, and just understanding that failure is just a point on the way to success, and it's an opportunity for you to learn and get better.
And are there any failures that you can think about that kind of really stand out for you, where you say to yourself, God, if that failure didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am today? Does anything stand out for you?
Yeah, there are many, but let me give you one example.
Okay.
So with Hooked, Hooked is a fiction app. It's a storytelling app, one of the biggest storytelling apps in the world for teens and millennials. We reach hundreds of millions of people around the world with these stories that we put into people's social feeds. And when we first launched the app, we launched it initially. It was an app with working with professional writers. It was a closed app. We launched a handful of stories and they were doing very well, but we started to get these requests from our users to write their own stories. And our investors really encouraged us to go that path. Like, okay, maybe you can be the Instagram of stories and be a UGC platform.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone who launches an app, every founder who launches an app wants to be the next Instagram for X. And so we were like, okay, yeah, let's go do this. So we created this UGC platform where users could, write their own stories in the app. It was a really slick interface, chat-based interface. And we launched it and we worked on it for 6 months, and we had a few thousand stories written from our users, and we got tens of thousands of users in the app. And what we found was the vast majority of them were actually just spending their time reading stories written by professional writers.
Mm-hmm.
And we had invested 6 months at this point developing the product, all of this stuff. Our investors were super excited about it. But when we looked at the data was staring us in the face, and it was saying, focus on professional content. That's right. Where the demand is. That's actually what people want, even though some people told you they wanted this other thing. That's not what their behavior is telling you. And so that was like a light bulb moment. And we had to accept failure, even though we'd invested all of this time and effort into this other product direction, it was failing. And so that was such an important fork in the road for us. We shut down the UGC product, doubled down on the professional content. And that was really the moment where Hooked started to take off.
Oh my gosh, this is such a great story to kind of illustrate how you have to kind of really balance the equation between innovation and demand. And this is kind of the big lesson, I think, that should be the big takeaway for everyone here. I wanted to ask you now, because I'm gagging to get to this part of our conversation. And that is, can you give us a little run through your journey with the companies that you founded, kind of high level, why you chose each of these specific ventures, what you learned from them, and when did you know that they were ready to be exited, which is something a lot of companies get wrong.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm on my fourth, major endeavor. And I started 18 years ago. I co-found all of my companies with my husband, Parag. We met at Stanford and have been partners in life and business ever since.
I think that's another podcast to bring you and your husband on to talk about how the heck did you make that work?
Yeah, would love that. And plenty of marriage advice, for free.
Oh my God, definitely. I'm bringing you back, girlfriend.
So I've done 4. And my first one actually failed. So it has not been just success all the way, all the way along. As I mentioned, a lot of failure. The first one started in 2005. It was a social networking site for Indians called Yari.com. And
I remember that. I remember it. It was so long ago. It was the beginning years of when, I launched Anoki magazine. So I remember that.
That's awesome.
We talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And that's right. That was one of our first little pieces of press. That's so cool. And it was like, we were just starting out. Facebook had just raised a $12 million Series A. So most people in America were still super skeptical of social networking. But I was like, this is going to be huge all over the world, and we got to go do this in India. And so my husband and I, Parag and I, moved to India, started Yari.com and tried to raise funding, everything. It was so early. It was so hard to raise funding. People did not take us seriously. People people thought no one in India is going to put their picture online. Like it's going to be totally scandalous. No one's going to do this. And so it was just hurdle after hurdle. We actually got a couple of million people onto the site and, got them to start using the site. But it was just really hard to get things off the ground back then. And
you were before your time, I think.
I think
with
we
that
were
product
before our time. We really were. We kept trying and trying and trying. And eventually we actually tried for 4 years. Eventually Facebook came in, took over all of India, completely ate our lunch. We pivoted to dating site. And again, we're before our time for dating,
yes.
for online dating for Indians. And long story short, after 4 years, made the very difficult decision to shut the company down and start something new. Mm-hmm. And so in that case, it was a decision to exit. It wasn't, the company was not sold, but it was our exit as founders into
absolutely.
something new. And
a smart exit because, people just keep going.
Exactly. And so, and that was the moment for us. And then we started our next company, which was music apps. It was called Kush. And that was really a pivotal moment in our careers because that was the first moment that we started to actually succeed as founders, and everything that we had learned from Yari, we were able to apply, and we were so much more successful the second time around. Mm-hmm. With Kush, we made music apps, music creation apps. Our first app, La Di Da, was reverse karaoke. You sing, it'll automatically compose music to match whatever you sing. And that was quite successful. We had, got, I think, to the top 10 in the App Store with that app.
Wow.
And took some feedback from that one and made Songify, which turned speech into music. And that was shot to the #1 spot in the App Store 3 days after we launched it.
I remember that one. That was the one that changed the game for you guys, wasn't it?
That's right. That's exactly right. That was the game-changing moment. And a few months after that, we started getting acquisition offers, and we ended up taking one with Smule and joined Smule as executives and as co-founders, essentially, even though they were already, had gotten their start at that point and were quite successful themselves and had raised much more funding than us. And so we joined, and then Smule became a rocket ship soon after that. And,
absolutely. I mean, my gosh, like over 1 billion, consumers. That's just insane. That's insane. But, the trajectory is very interesting of your journey here, because you didn't really not take advantage of every aspect of learning, whether it took you to kind of business success or not, right? Like everything just kept taking you then to the next journey that you needed to be on. And that's why I'm really interested to know why you chose something quite different with Mysterious. I mean, just going to remind everyone watching, listening, and reading this, I am chatting with Prerna Gupta, who is a 4-time serial tech entrepreneur. And she's done some massive, insane stuff out there, quite rare in her field as a woman, even more rare as a BIPOC woman. I'm going to ask you those questions. You know that I got to go there as well, Prerna. But before we do, let's talk about this kind of new venture that you're in right now. I'm talking about Mysterious, which is an NFT platform different, and my question is it different from other NFT platforms out there? And if so, how?
Yeah. So Mysterious is very different from other NFT platforms in that the focus is not actually the NFT platform. The NFTs are a gateway into a different kind of mobile social experience that we're developing. So our vision for Mysterious is to create a new social media app in Web3. We want to reimagine social media entirely. And we believe that Web2 social media apps are broken. They are actually making us sick as a society, and that Web3 and blockchain technology offer a very interesting opportunity to fix this and to improve how we socialize online. So that's the opportunity we're going after. Okay. And the NFT platform, the NFTs are a ticket into the communities that we are developing in this app.
So it's kind of like a lead magnet into getting people in, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, yep, it totally makes sense. You said something there that I feel is very important for people to understand, especially those of us, people that aren't in kind of the tech space. what is it that you feel is damaging about, the Web3 space that people need to know about?
Yeah. So we talk about, maybe let me define some things. We talk about Web3. Web3 refers to basically blockchain technology and the startups that are being developed around blockchain, and this belief that there's a new kind of internet to be built, and that will revolutionize, that will be another step function change in how we do things online. Web 2 is the era before it, basically the era of social media, and Web 1 is the original era of the internet. So there's Web 1, Web 2, Web 3.
Okay.
My thesis is that Web 2 social media apps are breaking down, and they are harming us. And the reason why is it really, to understand this, think about how we're wired as humans. We are wired for in-person interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's how we're evolved. And we seek out social signals from each other in person. Signals like a smile, a hug, the sound of laughter, the smell of food that someone made for us, the sound of music that we make together. Now that we are interacting primarily online on Web 2 social media apps, we continue to seek out these signals, this kind of social gratification constantly. But what we get back in return are likes and loves, follows, retweets, frozen selfie pictures of each other that are super fake. And there's this great mismatch now between the types of signals that we're seeking, which are very high value, strong signals like hugs and smiles, and what we're getting back, which are these very weak and shallow signals. And I believe that mismatch is what is making us collectively very sick as a society. Blockchain offers us an opportunity to change this. Blockchain, I believe, is fundamentally a social innovation, and its most lasting impact will be enhancing how we socialize online. We are increasingly socializing online and having online interactions, but they're too shallow. And it's almost like with Web 2, it was about this one to many. It's all of us shouting out into a void, hey, listen to me, listen to me. And that's not how we socialize. We socialize in small groups in deep ways. And why I believe that blockchain and NFTs will be about thinking about smaller group communication and allowing us to go deeper with each other. And that's mysterious, focusing on meaningful conversations in small communities centered around NFTs.
And, it's interesting you're saying that, because we hear that a lot with, parents and their kids, and, the fact that a lot of children, aren't developing conversational etiquette, aren't developing, social interactive nuances, the types of things that were really, really important for our parents to teach us, that those things are starting to be missed because language has now become, a lot of jargon. And emojis and all this stuff, just similar to what you mentioned. And what is the true value proposition of communication now? I guess the big fundamental question. So I want to ask you this, coming back to Mysterious, what success have you seen so far? Or perhaps a better question would be, what have you seen so far that's telling you that you're on the right track?
Yeah. So the biggest success has been in our initial community that we have started to develop. And we are starting with music, because we believe that music is one of the most fundamental ways in which we bond as humans. And, I really, this project is about bonding. It's about social bonding. Going back to those terms, Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. Web 1 was about social connection. It was about simply connecting us through the internet and allowing us to exchange information through the internet. Web 2 was about social interaction, getting us to interact with each other, through these social media apps, through likes and loves and follows and retweets. And Web 3 will be about social bonding, actually having us bond as humans and through communities. And music is one of the most fundamental ways in which we bond as humans. And so we are starting with music. And we have created this founding community of artists that are experimental musicians around the world. We represent many different types of, music cultures, from, weird computer, experimental computer abstract music, to Alam Khan, who is one of the premier Indian classical musicians in the world, a sarod player based here in the Bay Area. So it's an amazing, diverse group of musicians. And what we have created is this community of artists, and there's very, very ardent fans who are purchasing NFTs from these artists. And we are bringing them together in this new social app that we are launching next month, the Mysterious app, and are creating this new kind of experiment where we facilitate a different type of conversation. It's not just about an artist making an Instagram post and everyone coming on being like, wow, that's amazing, with these kind of shallow, very nice, but very shallow comments. We're creating a new feature set that gets them to actually interact in a way that's meaningful for not just the artists, but not just the fans, but the artists as well, and getting them to interact together in a way that creates bonding.
I love that. And that's kind of the central focus I'm hearing you say consistently throughout this. I want to ask you this. I feel you've answered this question, but I feel it needs encapsulating. What's the value proposition for clients and consumers here?
Yeah. The value that we see in Mysterious is in making us feel loved, honestly, and helping us understand that there's love out there for us. I feel that and to help us see the joy, celebrate the joy and mysteries and love of life. We are more connected than ever today, but we are lonelier than ever. And I this can't be how it ends. This can't be how human civilization interacts with each other. It's got to be deeper than this, and that's really what we are trying to create, a new kind of world in which we can continue to get all the benefits of the internet, which is that we can connect with each other all over the world, and that's amazing, but actually learn to share love and joy and real human bonding.
I love everything about that. It's everything that people should be supporting. So for people out there who aren't fully clear on the difference between kind of the world of communication that we're in online versus what you're talking about, how is coming into your world with Mysterious going to help create more value for the consumer?
Yeah. So let me explain what the feature set is in Mysterious, and I think that helps make it more concrete.
Right.
With Mysterious, when to enter the app, you need to own an NFT from one of the artists, one of the creators, in the platform. That NFT gets you a ticket into the community of people, that the artists and the other NFT purchasers that are part of that community. And so to begin with, it's this group of musicians and people who have purchased their NFTs. Over time, will expand into all different kinds of communities, from bread baking to meditation, anything you can think of. But right now, it's experimental music. When you come in, you're put into this forum, basically. And the biggest distinction between what's out there today and with what we're building with Mysterious is only one person can post at a time. So you are assigned as the speaker by other people in the community. And when you are the speaker, you've got the mic. You make a post. You have 24 hours to make a post. And once you've made your post, everyone else in the community has 24 hours to view the post and to leave a thoughtful comment. And so the idea is we're trying to get everyone to slow down and to focus and to interact in deeper and more meaningful ways. And we are saying one person speaks at a time, and that is much more, we're trying to recreate how we socialize in real life, which is in small groups. And we give people a chance to speak one at a time, and we listen and we contribute. We comment back on what they've said in thoughtful ways. And so that is kind of the value we're trying to create, so to speak, is get people to slow down, focus, really pay attention to each other and listen to each other, and give back something meaningful.
Mm-hmm. Where can people grab this app? Everywhere that apps are sold, I'm assuming?
Yes. Yeah. So we are launching next month. We'll be on iOS and Android, and we will soon have a web version as well, soon after that. Would love, anyone that's listening to check it out. You do need to own a mysterious NFT to be part of it. And you can find out how to do that at mysterious.xyz.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I got to ask you this. What's the purpose of the name? I'm mysteriously curious.
Yeah. It goes back, I think, to that thing that I said about, one of the most important qualities of a founder, and that's about curiosity. I think that one of the greatest joys in life is really in exploring the mystery, the mystery of life and the world and the human condition, and approaching life from that sense of curiosity, and approaching our human connections from that sense of curiosity, and finding joy and understanding the mystery behind another person, the mystery behind the art that they are making, and approaching conversation through that, as opposed to approaching it from how we do today, on our social media apps, which is shouting on top of each other and trying to, get everyone's attention. Let's flip that around, and let's ask each other questions and try to understand their mystery.
Absolutely. It's funny because I always call social media soapbox media. That's literally what it is. That's what it is. We all know this, right?
Exactly.
Right?
I love that.
Right? It's soapbox media. Yeah. That's what it is. Oh my gosh. So I want to ask you this, just because, I have you, and I can't think of anyone else I could ask a question as fundamentally as important as this. I mean, there's so many tech world's buzz products out there. We are being like bombarded with them, and everyday people like me, we have to learn to navigate them, right? So I want to ask you, what do you foresee as the future of the tech world's buzzwords like Bitcoin, AI, NFTs, the metaverse? What do we need to know from your perspective?
I think the biggest thing to understand is that we are at the cusp of another major revolution in how we live our lives. And that revolution is being driven by the intersection of all these things that you mentioned. Blockchain, which most of us think of as Bitcoin, the currency, but it's really the blockchain technology that underlies Bitcoin and Ethereum and all of these innovations in that space. And NFTs are a part of that, of the blockchain innovation. So it's blockchain, it's artificial intelligence or machine learning, and the third thing that I will add is actually the innovations that will start happening in biotech, basically, allowing us to start changing our own bodies and interfacing more deeply with technology, like artificial intelligence, like the internet, like hardware, computers, and eventually blockchain. And so it's the intersection. There are these incredible advances happening in all these spaces, and they are going to start to intersect in mind-blowing ways over the next decade. And so then you hear the term metaverse, and Facebook has renamed itself Meta now to kind of start to build towards that future. And when we think about the metaverse, we think about, okay, we're all just going to be these vegetables laying in bed, just like connected to an Oculus or whatever. But I think it's not going to be that way. It's going to be much more integrated into our physical lives, and we're still human. We're still going to live and breathe and move and all of these things. But what it's ultimately going to lead to is us allowing, and the part that I think is the most exciting is allowing humans to connect in deeper ways. And I think the version of the internet that we see right now has taken us away from that. It has made it harder for us to connect in deep ways. And that's what's, that's what's broken. And I believe that this is just an interim state. This is not where we're going to end up. And that ultimately these technological innovations will allow us in the long term to actually connect in deeper ways. I want to give you a very specific example of how I think in the far future, not today, not tomorrow, but 10, 20 years from now, technology will allow us to do that. So when we communicate, our brains have a certain speed at which they can process information, and certain types of information that we get, our brains are able to process a little bit more quickly or a little bit more slowly. So for example, sound, we process sound faster than we process visual stimuli. And there's a limit, there's a physical limit. Over time, as these different types of technologies start to merge, there's a possibility that we can increase the physical limit with which we can process signals from each other. And so there's a really exciting possibility that allows us to actually connect more deeply to each other and understand each other more deeply. And that's like a crazy sci-fi idea, but it's not crazy. It's going to be possible in the future and in the metaverse.
I love that, Prerna, because as you were talking about that, the visual that I kept getting was really going back to kind of ancient spirituality, and learning kind of, certain things that we aren't taught today. Is like a lost art, so to speak. And that is the deeper layered communications that is based on science and is based on, spiritual connection within self and then with others. And it's funny because you're talking about all this as it relates to kind of things we're going to create that's man-made. But it's interesting to see how that could potentially, we could lend from some of the ancient hidden arts that we've kind of forgotten and moved away from. What are your thoughts on that?
I love that idea. It's so perceptive, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think you're right. We have all that power inside us already. And in a way, all this technology has just taken us further away from being able to connect to it. And
until you came along, until Mysterious came along. And this is why this conversation with you is so paramount and so important for me, Prerna, is oftentimes it's the ignorance of knowing the purpose and the advantages of platforms that lead us then down a road of doing things with it that are limiting or potentially even harmful. And that's why I really want to ask you this question, like, what advice can you give everyone, normal people who, first thing I want to ask you is, how should they adapt to these tech-centric lifestyles, right? So that they're actually being used appropriately. And I say appropriately because what I mean by that is used to enhance their lives. That's what I mean, and not just being used, right? Because then there's a fine line between drug abuse and, positive stimuli to take your experience as a human to a whole other higher vibration.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I love the direction that this conversation is taking, because it's the most important thing. And this is my life goal with everything, with every product I launch, is to help people get there, and it really comes down to focus, to learning how to focus and to still your mind and to still your heart and your spirit. And I think that's one of the things that our culture is just, that we've been taught, in our ancient spiritual practice is really about this. And it's something that I think that I feel that South Asians have something special to give to the world, and that's to help teach that art of focus. And with technology is so powerful and so incredible. But you have to learn how to be able to use it from a place of discipline and to use it in a way that allows you to enhance your focus as opposed to become a distraction. Actually, I had a baby, our second child, 6 months ago. It's a girl,
congratulations.
and we named her Lakshya, and it's we spell it Laksha, Laksha, but really the word is Lakshya, and it means focus. And I think it is the single most important thing to teach children today, and to teach ourselves, and to the ability to, to develop that ability in ourselves. And that's focus. And that's what we're trying to do with Mysterious, is to get people, right, to slow down and focus a little bit more. But it comes from within. No app is going to make you do it. You have to learn that ability yourself.
And it's interesting because I kind of sort of feel that through our conversation today, Prerna, that perhaps there's an opportunity for you to even think about expanding the thought process on how to help people navigate positively through, their experience with your app, and maybe think about it from a humanistic, a spiritual, a connectivity perspective, rather than, oh, here's another app. Let's just go and, let's go junkie it, if you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. I really do see a great opportunity here, folks. If you are watching, listening, and reading this, you know that you got to go check out this app. It is everywhere apps are sold. By the time this interview comes out, we will be around the corner from the launch of this. So please do go and check it out. Prerna, one more time, can you let everybody know exactly where they need to go? Like, what is that URL that you gave us earlier?
Yeah, so it's mysterious.xyz. So instead of .com, it's like .xyz is kind of the cool, domains for Web3. So mysterious.xyz. And if you have any issues at all, you can find me on Twitter or Instagram. I'm just at Prerna Gupta on Twitter and Instagram.
Brilliant. And before I let you go, I got to ask you this, because I feel that having someone like you on this show, who is quite a rare phenomenon. I mean, as a woman, as a BIPOC woman in the tech sector, putting out this whole kind of new platform, but there's so many spiritual undertones that I feel are happening here as we've been talking about this. What have you experienced? Because I feel like we need to get more like-minded people in the game of creating apps that are going to benefit people's lives and help them vibrate on a much higher level. Let's talk a little bit about that. What have you experienced to be challenges unique to women founders versus men that makes the journey that much more challenging for women? Because we need to get more of, we've got to get more of that side of energy usage in this universe into this world that is fundamentally rapidly changing the way that we do everything. I'm saying this for anyone out there who doesn't know. I mean, only about 2% of investment dollars goes to female founders. That is just insanely ridiculous. Talk to us a little bit about that. How do we encourage women to get on this bandwagon who have these tremendous trajectories of what they could bring to the world in this realm?
Yeah, it's such an important question, and you hit the nail on the head. But the hardest thing as a female founder is fundraising. It's so much harder for women. And it continues to be harder for women. It's crazy. I've been doing this for 18 years. It has gotten easier over time, but it's still really hard. At every stage, I have to overperform. I have to the bar is so much higher for me than it is for my male peers to go raise the same amount of money. And then I'm going to be raising at lower valuations. That's just the reality. And it doesn't change. And the reason why is because it's such a relationship based thing. It's a gut driven decision that these VCs are making. It's relationship based. You see headlines all the time about these male founders that are raising billions of dollars, committing fraud, their companies crash and burn, and then they turn around and go raise another $1 billion again. And it's because they've been hanging out the whole time on yachts with these like old white men and, going to the parties and like hanging out and getting high with them. And they can turn around and make a phone call and they'll write them a big check. That's how the game works.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly difficult to break into that game as a female founder, especially as a female founder of color.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, I'm whatever, there's a way to play that game if you're a single woman. That is, some women can go do that and more power to you, but like I'm out there fundraising with my husband,
Hey, each to their own, sweetheart. Each to their own, right? We're not here to judge. That's God's job.
We're not here to judge. Go, whatever you need to do, go do it. But it's hard. And the answer goes back to that thing of perseverance. You just don't take no for an answer. You keep going, you find your people, you find your tribe. There are women now, every top VC fund has a female, VC. And so you just got to keep going. And also I will say would not be here without the male investors, the white male investors that supported me throughout my journey. There have been many who have been incredible. One of my biggest mentors is Ron Conway, who is the godfather of Silicon Valley. He's an incredible person and incredible investor. And without men like him supporting me, I wouldn't be where I am. And so there are really, really open-minded, good people out there. Go find them and keep going.
Absolutely. A big shout out to, allyship. That's really what it is here. And I feel a part of that journey is not just, why are men not doing this, but is also on the other side, let's educate them a little bit. They've been taught how to do business. And I feel as women coming into the space, we need to reteach them on how they could do it more expansively and more meaningful. I feel that that's a wonderful challenge to have. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, so well said. That's exactly right. That there's a certain culture that developed, a certain way of doing things that was very male dominated and male heavy. And that's if it's like only men in the room, that's how they behave and that's how they structure things. And, that's how they do things, but that's not the only way to do things. And actually, maybe there's a better way if you have some female energy in the room. And it's true for business. I think it's true for government. It's true for everything. And finally, the world is coming around to that idea. We still have to fight to get ourselves there. But yes, I think there's a much brighter future ahead and a much better way of doing things if we let women into those rooms.
Absolutely. And, and we're not here to male bash. That's something that I want to be very clear about, guys. This is about creating balance between the energies that exist in this world. Like, why do we want to exist on just one platform of energy usage? We want to look at the multiple ways that we can, collaborate together. And it comes back to a lot of the things that Prerna has been sharing today about having deeper connections, having more visceral ways that we look at the way that we are doing things with these platforms. And I feel that is the deeper discussion to be had here. And if we understand how to do that from someone who creates them with that purpose, I think that we are well within our journey to do the magic of bringing man and machine and functional and spiritual together, because that would be truly the greatest experience that we could have as humans. I really do believe that. What are your thoughts as we get ready to close off, Prerna?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that there's a very expansive and bright future ahead of us that merges man, woman, and machine together in a way that allows us to evolve to higher species.
Oh my God, absolutely. So as we get ready to close off, my dear lady, I want to loop back to today's theme: how to take a business idea from inception to scale in any climate, a real life success story, which is exactly what you are. Is there anything that you feel that I haven't spoken about that you'd like to leave everyone with?
Live with joy and love and purpose. It's build with joy, love, and purpose, because you will have things will go up and down. There will be good times, there will be bad times. But as long as you do that, you will always succeed. You will continue to grow through those ups and downs, and your journey will be magical.
Your mentorship today, Prerna, has been absolutely sensational. I started off this conversation with you thinking that we were going to go on a certain journey, and then all of a sudden we went on one of my favorite journeys, which is to tap into kind of the essence of humanity, which is really where we landed here, right?
Yes, that's one of my favorite journeys as well. And this has been so much fun, such a pleasure.
Oh my
Thank
gosh,
you so much.
likewise. Oh my gosh, absolutely, sweetheart. One more time before I let you go, let everyone know where they can hang out with you on social media.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Prerna Gupta and on Twitter at Prerna Gupta as well.
Thank you so much for bringing your wealth of wisdom and insights to the show, my love. For everyone who is in our community here, what a great episode for them to tap into. Guys, I really hope that you got some real value from today's show, and will share it with everyone you know who you feel needs to get today's learnings. And in my book, I was in this hour with this fabulous human. I feel that every single person in your life needs to hear this episode. It really is about today and the future, and it's about how we can best navigate our existence as humans for ourselves and for all the people we love, and for kind of humanity in general. And it dropped me an email. I always tell you guys, go to talk to Raj at rajgurn.com. I'd love to hear if you felt that this was a great episode, as I did. Prerna, thank you so, so much for hanging out with me.
Raj, thank you so much. This was amazing.
Thank you. You were amazing. Guys, I also hope that you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification button at the Open Chest Confidence Academy so that you never miss an episode when it drops every Wednesday. You can also download the Transform Your Confidence show on podcast platforms and give it a 5-star rating, guys, if you feel that it's a valuable resource to assisting your journey to empower your confidence with actionable insights. You can also read it. I say this every single time. Some people just prefer the read. Hop on over to the blog, which is at the openchestconfidenceacademy.com/media/podcast. And I'll see you next week for another invaluable episode packed with insights and learnings to help empower your life, your work, and your spirit. Take care of yourself, guys.